An old Chinese proverb says, "Those who think it cannot be done should not interrupt those doing it." On this episode of the Peep Podcast, you'll meet a talented healer who is not to be interrupted. Welcome to the Peep Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Maroc, and I'm grateful you're here. The two big ideas behind the Peep Podcast are to show that the paranormal is more normal than most people think, and to connect the science to the psi, including ESP, psychokinesis, and energy healing. In this episode, I'm introducing you to Charlene Ellington, who answered her calling in a big way. But first, I want to thank everyone who came out to the 5th annual Quail Hollow Art Walk this past Saturday, who chatted with me and bought my books. I hope you enjoy them. It was nice meeting you. I plan to do more in-person sales next year, so if you want to know when and where, I recommend going to NicoleMaroc.com and signing up for my newsletter. I only send it out once per month, and you'll receive updates on personal appearances, briefs on recent episodes, book updates, and occasional giveaways and other fun stuff. Now back to this episode's exciting interview. Charlene Ellington has provided alternative healing modalities since 1997 for both humans and animals through her practice, Energetic Transformations. She helps individuals achieve a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual balance using her intuitive abilities as a certified Reiki master, medical intuitive, and animal communicator. She offers psychic surgery to address physical ailments without the use of traditional surgical tools, using energetic techniques to intuitively mimic the process of physical surgery. She provides pre-surgery readings to promote rapid healing and minimize pain. As a medium, she connects with spirit guides and angels to deliver messages and healing. Her expertise includes clearing spirit attachments, removing negative entities and energies from individuals and locations, and offering intuitive soul communication readings. She is an active writer and co-author of Miracles Among Us, Words of Wonder and Wisdom by Mystic Voices, available on Amazon. Also contributing to Bridges to Heaven and several anthologies as part of a writers group. Charlene has trained with renowned experts such as Greg Braden, James Von Prague, Dr. Richard Bartlett, and Raymond Grace. She has completed programs with Transpersonal Reiki Institute, the Monroe Institute, Seer Holistic Health Associates, and others. Personally, I can tell you that this interview was an absolute joy to do. So let's dive in with Charlene. Hi, Charlene. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good, Nikki. How about yourself?
I'm great. I am
Good.
so excited to meet you virtually and talk to you about the healing and all the exciting work that you do. Let's just go ahead and get started with how you got into healing.
Okay. In the 90s, my father-in-law and my best friend both died of cancer. And I was not into the healing arts at all at that time. And I just remember thinking, gosh, if it was just something I could have done to help them, if it was just something I could have done to help make them feel better. But I hadn't gotten there yet. So I joined a recorder flute group. And in that group was my best friend that passed away. Her mother-in-law was in that group. And so when we disbanded for the summer, I said, Cynthia, I'd really like to get to know you. You know, I just had met her once when my friend was still alive, but I don't know, she just was interesting, and I thought, wondered if she would be interested. And she said, sure. So I went to her house and walked in, and I was an avid reader. She had hundreds and hundreds of books, in her house. Oh, I was smitten. I was totally smitten. And so, so we sat down, we had the nicest chat. We talked about books. We talked about this, we talked about that, we talked about metaphysical things, even though I really wasn't into it, at that time.
Mhm.
Probably, I live in a small town, so the most metaphysical thing in our town would have been the one book by Shirley MacLaine, Out on a Limb. And so, I mean, and so to find somebody who, was talking about all these things, oh my God, this is just so interesting. And so, anyway, we talked about metaphysical things, and she would, when it was just before it was time for me to leave, she brought up that she was going to go to a hypnotherapy conference, sponsored by ARE in Virginia Beach. Oh, tell me more. And so she brought out a brochure, and I looked at it, and it was like all these things I never knew I wanted to know about. And I thought, I got to go to this. I got to go, And so, anyway, she sent me home with, she lent me 3 books, and I went home and I signed up to go to the conference with her. I didn't know anything about these things, but it definitely called to me. And so I pulled out one of the books and I started reading it, and over into it, it talked about this woman sharing Reiki, or doing Reiki to her husband's leg, but it didn't give me any information. Normally, you kind of got some kind of idea. So there was no Google back in the 90s for me to
Right.
go look that up. So I called Cynthia back and I said, what is this Reiki, this Reiki that is talking about in this book? And she was telling me about, well, it's healing the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual, and it can do no harm. Oh. And she says, and I've got a book about it. Would you like to borrow it? Well, of course I'd like to borrow it. So I go back to her house, that week, and I get the book. And it's a couple of weeks before I open it up and start reading it. 3 pages in, I thought, I have to know how to do this. It was the strongest calling, the strongest pull I've ever had of anything in my life. And so, lo and behold, at the hypnotherapy conference that she and I were going to go to, the first day, there were going to be a couple of people there teaching Reiki. Well, all righty then. So, September rolls around, and we go to the hypnotherapy conference, and I go to that Reiki class. She doesn't, but there's 8 people in the class, and they tell introduce yourself and tell us, why you're here. What do you do for a living? And I told them who I was, and I was a veterans claims agent. I worked with veterans, and I said, I don't know enough about this to even really know why I'm here, but I know I'm going to know by the time it ends today. So, okay, I was good with that. And then by lunchtime, I knew that I was going to become a Reiki master, whatever that was. I was going to do that. It was a knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the conference is over, and I go home, and anybody that would let me practice Reiki on them, I was practicing Reiki on them. I mean, I was hooked. I really, really was hooked. And so, while I was at the conference, I went to other classes. I wasn't a hypnotherapist, but the classes were interesting. And so anyway, long about February, I started getting this message, and I could hear it, in my head. I could hear it. Call Monica. Well, Monica was somebody that I had met at the hypnotherapy conference, and she was a Reiki master. And so, I'll get around to it. And a couple of days went by, and same message. Call Monica. I'll call her. When I get around to it. And I didn't do it. So, like 2 days later, I know exactly where I was driving to work, exactly where I was on the road when it was like, call Monica today. and do it by the end of this day. So I called her that night, and I can't remember where Michigan, far, far away from Virginia. And lo and behold, she was going to be traveling for the next 2 or 3 weeks for business. So um, I had to call her. I needed to talk to her that day, or she was going to be gone. But anyway, she agreed to teach me level 2 Reiki and to help me become a Reiki master. I was like, well, okay, well, where are we going to meet? Now we're going to do this. She tells me when she's going to be on the way back home, and we meet halfway from where I am, where she is. So we met in Berkeley, West Virginia. And I spent almost a week with her, and she taught me, the level 2 and initiated me to become a Reiki master. Well, I was just beside myself. Oh my goodness. And so the next month, which was March of 98, I went back to Virginia Beach and became a hypnotherapist. You know, and of course, with all that, because it started back in September, I can't get enough of anything. I just can't get enough of reading everything I can get my hands on. Mm-hmm. And so by May, Cynthia and I had opened up our little business in our little town, and I was doing Reiki and I was doing hypnotherapy, and she was doing hypnotherapy and past life regression. And because it was in a little town, mm-hmm. This 28 years ago, you don't know how it's going to be accepted, but we held our breath and held our faith, and it went fine. Nobody gave us any problems.
Oh, good.
Yeah, nobody at all gave us any problems whatsoever. And so did that for probably a couple of years. And then and I was working full time and then doing this on the side. Well, by then my first grandbaby was born. I wasn't having any time to spend with my grandbaby. So I decided, okay, I wasn't going to stay in the business with her anymore because I wanted to have time to spend with the grandbaby. So I took my business home and started seeing clients, part-time at my house. And that just kind of fizzled out. And then the marriage fizzled out, a few years later. As people change as you get into these different alternative healing modalities, and the whole different world opens up to you. And sometimes it just doesn't open up to the spouse. It's just not for them. And so our time was over. And then I found this quaint little apartment out in the country on this little farm, and had a Reiki room, had 2 bedrooms. So I took one of them and made that into a Reiki room and was seeing clients again. So I was a happy camper doing that. But then I discovered I didn't love doing the hypnotherapy anymore. I didn't want to do it anymore. So I just stopped doing that. But of course, other classes started calling, always listening out. And I would know instantly if I was supposed to go take a class. Like Raymond Grace was teaching Dowson. Oh, yes, that caused him. He went and took that. Then here's a class about aromatherapy. That'd be interesting. So I'd go and take that. And so anyway, just little by little, things started taking place during the Reiki sessions. Like clients' past life experiences and information started spontaneously coming through. And then, and we find out it made sense to them about how those past life events were affecting their life today and their medical conditions today. Well, that was interesting, And so after that, then I started channeling, and that led me to doing soul readings for people, and I could talk to their higher self, and that helped them to figure out what's this difficulty in life? Why is this, why am I not finding out my purpose in life? Mm-hmm. So the soul readings were for that. Okay, all right. And then after that, the clients' spirit guides started showing up and giving information and sending messages to the clients. So, all right, that was good too. And then after that, in 2013, I founded Energetic Transformations. So with that, still reading voraciously, everything I get my hands on, and started reading Carolyn Mace. And she's a medical intuitive. And I thought, well, this is really interesting. I think I might could do this. If somebody would just show me how, I think I could do this. I know I could do this. And to my great delight, the classes became available. And so started taking them. And just like with the Reiki, the medical intuition, it was easy. It just made sense to me. It was easy. It flowed, and I loved it. And so after that, I discovered, when something's that easy and it calls to you that hard, pay attention. Because I think, in my own opinion, it's for you if it calls to you that hard.
I agree.
So what I do with the medical intuition is I'll tune into somebody's body. Most times, if I don't know the person, I will get them to send me a picture because it just helps me to tune in and connect with them energetically easier. And every muscle, every organ, every cell, every part of the body has a voice. And I can hold a conversation in my mind with the parts of those bodies and find out what's going on. I'm going to ask, what the client wants to know. Why is my knee not healing? Why does my arm hurt? And the body will talk back and give answers. So with that, what they need, I hear, and the information comes through. And so when I put pen to paper, it just starts flowing. So after that, psychic surgery showed up, but it just kind of appeared on its own through my granddaughter. And this was probably at least 10 or more years ago. And she called me one day, and somebody had accidentally knocked her down at school, and she knew that she had broken her wrist because the fingers were swollen and the pain was the same as when she had fallen and broken the other wrist at another time previously. So she said, her mama had taken her to the doctor's office and they had x-rayed it and found that she had 2 hairline fractures. And so they were sending her to the hospital, which was not that far away from the doctor's office. They wanted them to x-ray it and to set it. So she asked me, would I send Reiki to it? Just what I see, what it said, what did I find? And I tuned in as soon as she and I hung up, and in my mind's eye, I could see the 2 hairline fractures, in the bone in the wrist. And so I just started working on it intuitively and etherically, and I was sending healing energy to it, and I set it and wrapped it energetically. All this done long distance. And so then they get to the hospital, they go in, probably the ER, I don't remember. And they x-ray it again, and they don't find anything.
Oh, my.
Nothing at all. And so, that's a surprise to me.
Yeah.
We're talking maybe 30, 45 minutes, 60 minutes ago. The x-rays showed 2 hairline fractures and now they're gone. And so I'm thinking, did I do that? I mean, this was a newbie for me,
Yeah.
This was new for me. So I called her mama like 3 hours later to check on Macy, and she was fine. And then I texted Macy, the next morning, and she said it was a little sore, but it didn't hurt. And then I checked on her that night, and she said there no additional problems whatsoever.
Wow.
I know, right? And so we got another story to share. And what I learned from that was I had a client, and I had helped her before with energy work, and she had a knee problem, and it had bothered her in the past, but she was on vacation several states away from home, and the knee went out, and she was hobbling and could hardly walk and in big pain. I mean, it was giving her a world of hurt. So she calls me and she says, can you send it Reiki? Can you send it energy? Please just do anything. Do whatever you can to help make it feel better. She said, I don't care what you do, just can you fix it? I'll try. I tune in and talk to the body just to see exactly what it's saying. And intuitively, I can see what's going on behind her knee. And I ask the body, what do you need? And it tells me. And I etherically and energetically am working on it. I'm in Virginia and she's, halfway across the United States, but I'm still working on the back of her knee, doing what it says it needs. And so when I'm finished, um, she feels better. It's not hurting. And I'm telling her, okay, now, this is just like a real operation. If you had a physical incision, you be careful with it. You take care of it. You be gentle with it and don't do a lot of walking. That's what the body said to do. So I'm just giving her the message that her knee said to tell her.
Yeah.
And so she didn't listen. So she walked and walked and walked and walked and walked because she didn't hurt and she felt better. And so like a week later, she called and her knee was really bothering her, but she had not listened. So the main thing that I walked away from that is, even though it's not a physical incision, you gotta treat it as if it had been a physical incision.
Yeah.
And you got to take care of it, and the body will tell you how long, to be careful with it, and what to do. Don't squat, don't kneel on it, don't bend it, don't. Yeah. I told her all those things, but she didn't listen. And so after that, I thought, okay, I got to make sure I always tell the people to listen to that, and then, and then probably my best and most exciting medical intuition and psychic surgery is the one about Lisa, who had messed up her knee, hurt her knee, injured it back in the 90s. And she lived up on the third floor of a brownstone, and she had to just crawl up backwards, crying, and it was hurting. And because she just totally believed in the power of prayer, she put her hands on it, and asked for healing. And by the next morning, it was better. And so, and she got along with it for years, because this was back in the 90s.
Yeah.
But at the end of last year, then she re-injured it. And she was having a hard time, she really couldn't go up and down steps, And so her aunt had been through knee replacement. She had seen what all that entailed. Lisa was taking her mama to orthopedist for her knees, and she was seeing what that entailed. And then her knee got all goofed, Lisa's knee got all goofed up. And so she was seeing, just reading everything she could. And then she started investigating stem cells, therapy. And so she called me and said, what do you think about you doing some stem cell surgery or therapy on me? I mean, I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. You got to give me a chance to at least read about it a little bit. So, so I study up on it and call her back in 2 or 3 days and say, well, what do we got to lose? Let's try it. Well, we'll give it a shot, So we set up a time, for her to come to my house, and I have a Reiki room set up here as well. And she got on the table, and I had done the medical intuitive reading. So it told me exactly what to do. I mean, exactly. And so, okay, so I've got instructions on what to do. Well, I had never put my hand on her knee. So when I put my hand on her knee, she only had a half a knee. She had like a piece of a knee over here and a piece of a knee over here, and the wedge in the middle was gone. And I said, where's the other part of your knee? And she says, well, that's been gone that's been gone for years. I said, you never told me, you didn't tell me that you were missing part of the knee. She said, well, I'm missing part of the knee. And so Well, okay, because in the medical, intuitive reading, it didn't tell me it was missing part of the knee. So that was a surprise. So, well, okay. So I tuned into the body, tuned into the knee, intuitively and energetically. And I removed the knee or moved the knee over to the side so I could get into what was under the knee.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started following the instructions of what the knee had told me to do, when I did the reading. And yeah, in my mind's eye, I could see like the arthritis and the grit that was down in there that was grinding into, the muscle and the tendons and stuff that were under there. I could see why it was hurting, when she walked and what was causing the pain. And so I'm like, okay, so I etherically washed it out. Like if I had a little hose, I washed it out. And I had a little etheric vacuum and I vacuumed it out and put some gel in there, to
Mm-hmm.
just kind of lubricate it and let me see what's under here and let me see what's under here in my mind's eye. And and then in my mind's eye, I was looking under the knee, and it under the kneecap was all pitted. I thought, that's where I guess all the grit had ground into the back of the knee and made all these little pitty holes. And so I just covered them up with like some calcium, some hard calcium, and covered that up. And then I sprayed like the stem cells and all in my eyes. I covered up the kneecap and I sprayed all inside of what I had just worked on. And then I needed to work on each of the ligaments that went on each side of the knee. Now I could, put my hand on that, but
Mm-hmm.
but and then the muscle of the ligaments that's on the top and the bottom of the knee. And so then you gotta, put her leg up at like a 90 degree. You gotta get it just right. It can't be too tight. It can't be too loose. The tension's gotta be just right. And so did that. And then it was time to put the kneecap back. And so, that I just made sure that there was enough stem cells had been sprayed down in there, and I covered the kneecap with stem cells. And then I just put it back, it still had the V in it, but I put it back and then etherically wrapped it, and then and made sure I told her, okay, now when it feels better, don't kneel on it, don't run, don't squat, don't do
Mm-hmm.
anything that's going to mess it up. Because if it feels better, you're going to think, okay, I can go do all this stuff, but don't make me have to come back in there in 2 or 3 days and fix it. So she listened. And so, I mean, she immediately felt better. And then, within 3 days, she didn't have any pain. I mean, she never did have big pain, but in 3 days, the pain was gone. And so we really didn't say anything to anybody because I didn't know if it would work or not. I mean, we were just seeing what it would do.
Right.
Well, after that, the kneecap started growing back together, and now she's got a whole kneecap. It grew back.
That is phenomenal.
And so anyway, I guess the biggest thing about not having the physical incisions and doing this psychic surgery is it's gentler and it's faster recovery.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a more gentle healing, and probably the biggest advantage that anybody would have going in is holding the belief that it can do what it did.
Right. Right. Because faith is like a huge portion of the
Yeah,
process.
yeah, yeah,
So, okay, I have some questions.
sure.
um, just going back a little bit, just just to Lisa, actually. When you were doing the psychic surgery, because I have not tried this. I am a Reiki master, but and I'm an emotion code practitioner, but that's as much as I've done. So I've never tried psychic surgery.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I don't practice I often because I'm a writer and a podcaster. And so I have a lot of things that take my, and a
Hmm.
full-time
Hmm.
worker. So anyway, so I'm like way behind you as far as this stuff goes. And so I have to ask, when you were doing the psychic surgery on Lisa's knee, were you still holding your hands on her, or was she just laying on the table and you were kind of acting out in the air over her what you were doing? Like, how does that
I
work?
did both. I mean, no session, no two sessions are ever the same. I just go with the flow. So yes, I barely touched her, and that, let's say that this was the knee area, and
Mhm.
I just barely touched it, but that was more just to what energy was I feeling off of it. I
Okay.
I, I go a big time about what I feel energetically. What do my hands, what do my fingers tell me, but more so, I was doing it in my mind. I mean, this was all in my mind, what I was, and I was picturing myself
Doing it.
um, doing it, 'cause I
Okay.
didn't have any stem cells in my hand. I had
Right.
nothing like that. So if this was her knee, I was just, you know, making what she would have seen was just me making motion.
Mhm.
What I saw in my mind is what I was described to you, what I did.
Yeah.
So, so, but I would say I probably barely touched her while I was actually working on the knee. The only time I really touched her was just when I needed to, um, bend her knee into that 90-degree angle just to make sure that the tension was right.
Hmm.
And so I was, it was difficult for her to hold it up like that. So I helped. I think I probably laid it on my shoulder, and just did whatever I did tension wise. But other than that, no, I really didn't touch her. I mean, well, they make the second person I told you about. She was clean across the United States.
Right.
So you got to picture it, and with all this energy work and all the things that I have learned to do, you got to have a big imagination. Nothing, you just got to think outside the box
Right. And have faith that it'll work.
and
And
have faith in art.
so you are a visual person.
Absolutely, I have to
Okay.
be.
Yeah, right. Okay, so when you took the classes for becoming a medical intuitive,
Hmm.
do they teach you like is it about biology and physiology or
Now
what do they teach?
I took physiology. I took another physiology class. One to help me with with being a medical intuitive, and I also, because I did veterans claims, and theirs were medical conditions. I knew that it would help me with that as well. So it was a twofold win for me taking that class. But
Nice.
yes, it does help. But I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of times, it's not unusual at all for the body to tell me stuff. Give me names, physical names, medical names. I don't know what they're talking about. It's not until I, am finished with the session, I gotta go look up what the body just told me. You know,
I love that.
I know.
Okay, so I had so many questions and I didn't write them down. Oh, when you say that you can hear what the body is saying, um, do you actually hear a voice or is it more like your own voice like when you
No,
get things
no.
intuitive?
Whether it's the person, the body part, the person's higher self, whether it's an animal, no matter what, they each have their own voice. So when I hear them in my mind, it'd be just like, I'm hearing somebody out there, but it's in my mind. I hear it with my inner ears.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm hearing you right now with my outer ears.
Right.
But that's going on, it's my inner ears.
Okay.
And just like I see things in my mind, that's my inner sight. So,
When you first started experiencing like spirit guides coming through while you're
hmm
doing
hmm
Reiki,
hmm
Um, had, did they just walk up and say, "Hey, I'm her spirit guide," or like how did you know
Well,
what was going on?
well, I would know that somebody was in there because it was only the two of us. The
Hmm.
person's on the table and I'm doing the work, but I know that somebody else is in there. I can feel it. You know, um, maybe they make a noise that I know the person on the table didn't make. They make a noise over here to let me know that they're there. And the first time it happened, probably the freakiest, just because I wasn't used to it. And what it was this little old gray haired lady. I could see her in my mind's eye, and she was bent over, it was kind of kissing the woman on the table. And and I thought, well, gosh, do I say anything? Do I tell the client when it's over with? I don't know what to do with this. And then I thought, is it safe to tell? And I could just feel calmness in my belly. So, okay. So when I asked the woman, and I asked the woman that was on the table when it was all over with, and I said, does does a woman, and I described her. I said, oh yeah, that was my nana. Oh, okay, okay. So after that, when the guides started showing up and giving me information, or people's loved ones started showing up giving me messages, it didn't bother me. It didn't freak me out. It was like, okay, this is what's going to be happening from now on. Because
Okay.
whenever these new things happen, it's always going to be happening again. I mean, it's just I have learned, you know, and I also learned a lot of times something might would pop in my head to try that, even if I didn't even know why I should do it. But I learned that, just go on and do it and trust it. As
Hmm.
long as I'm not, as long as I know I'm not doing any harm. That's
Right.
always, that's always the bottom line. But if I'm not doing any harm, give it a shot. Just see where it takes you. And I've never had anything yet go awry, from trying, just
Yeah.
think outside the box.
Oh
I,
yeah.
I definitely think outside the
You do.
box.
And it works for you.
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
Yeah. I love that. And
uh-huh.
so when you okay, going back to ARE, like
Mm-hmm,
that first weekend uh,
mm-hmm,
conference,
mm-hmm,
and you said you immediately knew that you needed to be a Reiki master. Like
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I that is so impressive to me because not everybody who gets into Reiki has that strong calling. They just a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of well, in my case, my friends were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're gonna do Reiki 1 at my house. I've got somebody coming over to teach. Do you want to come do it? Sure, I'll come do it, whatever. And then it turns out to be an amazing weekend. But like the fact that you had this strong calling almost immediately, do you think that that's the reason that you've been able to level up so much?
Yes, I do. I really, really do. And I'm a big one for trusting my gut. My gut never lies to me, especially along the lines for stuff like this. If it's a calmness, that's my yes. If it's a static in my belly, that's a no. And and through the years, I have definitely learned, and even through because I had a significant medical condition, that left me housebound for 2 or 3 years, but and the surgeon wanted to go back in and do the same kind of operation again that didn't fix it the first time, and and so I called myself. I wore if I get it done. I wore that in my belly for a couple of days, and it was like, no, no,
Hmm.
no, no. Well, how about if I don't get it done? And I had complete peace. That was my biggest eye opener in my entire life, and I run everything through my gut about everything ever since.
Smart.
And life works because I do that. And a lot of times people laugh because you ask me something. I say, well, let me sleep on it. Well, it's not so much that I got to sleep on it to get the answer. I just want to make sure, am I getting all the details? Am I feeling all the details? Before I give my permanent yes or no. But
Right.
evidently I must have known to trust that from the beginning. But I tell you, when I knew even 3 pages in to that Reiki book that I had to learn it, um, it was just it that was even a stronger calling than I want to marry this man. It was a stronger calling than I'm ready to get pregnant and have a baby. It was the strongest calling I ever had.
Wow.
And the second strongest one was the medical intuition. When I read that book and I thought, I think I could do that. I know that I could do that. I just, if somebody will just show me how, remind me. It's if somebody will just remind me. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember saying those words in my head. What do you mean, remind me? I've never done this before, but then you think, well, maybe I did it in a past life. I don't know, but
Right.
sure glad I'm doing it in this life.
I just got chills when you said maybe I'm doing it in a past life, or
Uh-huh.
I did it then. Yeah, I think remind you is right on. Okay, so you've talked about the psychic surgery. How do you do the pre-surgery readings? How
Okay.
does that work?
Okay, what I do with that is, let's say somebody's going to have surgery the next day. I will tune into their body, and I normally do it the day or the night before because I don't know how much the body knows. Day after tomorrow, or 2 or 3 days from now, I just like to be able to tell it what they're going to do with the procedure, the surgery tomorrow. And I will talk to the entire body. I will particularly talk to that body part, to tell it what's going to happen to it. And then I want all the body parts to work together while the procedure or the surgery is going on. And I do pen to paper. I can tune into the body and talk to it, telling, I call in all the angels, to surround the person and surround anybody who'll have anything to do with the person, before, during, and after the procedure. I want like the heart to beat in balance. I want the blood pressure to remain balanced. I want the lungs to breathe in and out in balance. And I pretty much just go through the entire body, asking it to all work together. And let's say somebody's going to have something removed. I'm going to give thanks to that body part for what it's done to the body all this time. Thank you. And if it's going to be replaced with something, tell it, I tell it exactly what's going to happen. So there are no surprises, because there have been times that people got stuff done and then they wanted a reading afterward and the body said, nobody told me so and so was going to happen. Nobody told me, and was kind of pissy about it because nobody told them, what was going to happen. But the main reason for it is so that there will be minimal bleeding, or especially minimal discomfort. And so a lot of times, people will, they might take some pain medication at the hospital because they give it to them, but
Mhm.
then when they go home, they don't need it because the body has been prepared ahead of time. There's no need, for any kind of discomfort. Everything's going to work together. And then I always, at the end of the reading, will ask, do you have any questions? Do you have anything that you want to, say to the owner of this body? And if yes, then of course I'm going to send a copy, a summary of what I have said, to
Mhm.
the person, and then I want them to read it several times, like the day before, the night before, the day of, so that it is totally enmeshed in who they are. The body knows what's going to happen. And so or like, I want the skin to be supple enough to easily, receive an incision, or if they're going to be intubated, for the jaw and the teeth to open up gently enough and for the, this to receive the intubation tube, and or like the anesthesia, for the body to receive the exact right amount of the anesthesia, and to for it to be acclimated to the body in perfect balance, and then for the jaw and all to be loose enough to when the intubation tube is taken out, or when the body no longer needs the anesthesia from the procedure, for the body to just let it go, let the body release it.
Mm-hmm.
Those type of things that I talk to, and prepare the body.
I like that. And I am without my gallbladder and without my appendix, and it never
Mm-hmm,
occurred to me to thank either of those for like,
mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm.
just gave me something else to think about.
Well, so anyway, but I have found that people have minimal to no discomfort,
That's amazing.
after that is amazing. I had one client that got a foot operated, and I think she dropped something on her foot. I can't remember. She really broke the bones significantly, and she had to have an operation to get it all put back together. And anyway, she called and wanted their pre-surgery reading ahead of time, and so did all the things that I just shared with you, and told the body that there was no need for any discomfort afterwards. Just going to be swift, easy, and effortless healing. And so she took the pain medication at the hospital, and she came home, and the husband kept wanting her to take it, and she's, I don't need it. And they said you should take it. I don't need it. And so, okay, she didn't take it. She didn't need it. So,
I like it.
and that's
That's
cool.
so cool. That is now, how did you start doing that? Like,
I, I was thinking about that like 2 or 3 days ago. I woke up and I was thinking, where did I learn to do that? I think I read a book, and I was trying to think of the name of the book. And I think the woman in the book, now I read the book a long time ago, so this was
mhm.
a really long time ago. And I think she talked to people's bodies before they had surgery, and I thought, well, I can do that. That makes perfect sense to me. Oh my God, that's just a win-win. So with friends, or clients, and I tell them, let's try it. Well, then you try it, and then it worked, and the person doesn't need, medication for pain, and they heal up quickly and easily, and they feel good, and so I thought, okay, well that's another thing,
Yeah.
to check off and use. So I think I read the book. I read a book and took the idea and did it.
I I love that you are so open to just trying things. Like as some of us are the the logical side of the brain jumps in and gets in the way. So yeah, you're just ready to, like you said, outside of the box, go outside the box and just trust that it'll work. And
Yeah,
especially with Reiki,
yeah.
there's not negative side effects from Reiki. Everything that you do with Reiki is positive. So
Hmm.
if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but the chance is that it will work on some level. And
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
win-win. You're
Hmm.
you're so
Hmm.
right about that.
Now, another thing that I have gotten a significant amount, or more of an amount of people, I'm finding like if they've got spirit attachments to them or in them, or even maybe dark ones or negative ones attached to them or in them, that's going to prohibit people from healing well.
Mm.
Hmm. So, just by trial and error, I have found if I check to see if they have any attachments and get those removed first, the medical condition pretty much resolves itself. When you clear it out, it clears. But who knew that the attachments were the cause of the issue?
Yeah.
And so you get rid of those attachments, and the healing goes easy peasy lemon squeezy.
And so how do you know when somebody has an attachment? Is it the same experience as when a guide walks into the room, or do you have to look for them?
Sometimes I just know that they're there. I can feel, I guess I feel it in my chest. I feel it in my gut. I just, I can feel the negative energy. Um, I just, I don't know. I just know I can feel it. Um, I don't always know they're there. I did one recently, and I was surprised when I went in to send the person Reiki, to because she was having pain and or needed me to send her, and got found out that she had a negative one attached, in her area of pain. Well, I
Mm.
didn't see that one coming. That was a surprise. But so um, got in touch. Do you want me to remove it? So yes, she wanted me to remove it, and so, but I just knew that. I guess if I had left it until I completed the healing session, I just didn't think that she would get the healing that she needed. I knew that it wouldn't work. And so I cleared it out, called in the angels because they're the ones that get rid of the attachments. I don't do that. I just ask for their help and they do that. And got rid of it, and then the healing just, I just went with what felt right, and so when it was all over and done with, she said, she could feel major energy flowing through her, the area moved a whole lot easier, and she didn't have any more pain, and she'd been having significant pain for years. So uh, anyway, you give it a shot.
Yeah.
You never know. I continue to be surprised at the stuff that pops up. Like that, I was surprised that I didn't know that there was a dark entity there. I didn't. I'm normally on top of that, but I think it's because she said she only wanted, hours worth of Reiki. It's okay. I can do that. But
Yeah.
then while I was, doing the work, it quickly I was shown that there was one there. So okay.
Hmm.
So sometimes I can see them in my mind's eye, I pretty much know where they are. And I can feel if it's a really bad one versus just an attachment. I mean, you can have spirit attachments. They don't mean harm, but they cause harm
Yeah.
because they don't need to be there. A dark one, I just normally get it feeling in my chest or in my belly. And
Mm.
so I didn't get that. But they're good at hiding. If they know that you're coming in to do some work, sometimes they step out, and you just I don't know, you just gotta keep kind of poking around energetically.
Yeah.
Very
And I love that you call in the angels to take care of that.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Oh, I start every healing session off with talking to the guides and the angels, asking for their help. But especially with clearing out the negative entities, the demons, the really bad ones. Archangel Michael and his band of mercy do that. And then because the very first time I did it. And I thought, I am not ever doing that ever again. There has got to be a better way to do this. And I just got the information, calling the angels, calling Archangel Michael. And so that's what I did from then on. And they take care of it. But you're doing when you're going in to clear out the dark ones,
Hmm.
that is spiritual warfare. I mean,
Yes.
that's some scary, scary stuff, and it's not for the faint of heart. Even with the angels helping, until you can get them all, cleared out. I mean, that is true spiritual warfare. It's an exorcism. So it's not for the faint of heart, and not everybody wants to do it, but God gave the ability, so somebody's
Hmm.
got to do it. So I'm elected as one of many, I'm sure, that are out there that do it also.
Yeah, you accepted the challenge and you
I
you
accepted
rose
the
to it.
challenge. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyway, I just I, I love the alternative healing modalities. I love every one of them. The animal communication, fun, fun, fun. You never know what they're going to tell you. Have the most interesting conversations with them.
So how did you get started in that? Did you just
Oh,
try it or did you
no,
learn?
no, no. No, this is a good story too.
Okay.
I went to the Monroe Institute, near Charlottesville in Faber, Virginia, and uh, I say it's like a week long of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had somebody that I grew up with and had known from 10 years old and had passed over, come see me and talk to me and gave me a message to give his wife. Well, okay, I'm not real used to doing this. I knew the wife, but I didn't know her well enough to say, so I had to, after I went home, I had to figure out what to do with that one. But in that same week, I had 3 of my pets from my past come to me and talk to me. And so, well, that's cool. And I mean, I absolutely knew that it was them because each one of them told me something that was, specialized to them. So, of course, when I come back from my week-long, visit to the Monroe Institute, and I'm telling all my girlfriends and my friends about, what happened, and I'm telling them about the 3 pets come through. Well, one of the girlfriends says, "Well, I want you to talk to my dog, and ask him so and so." And then somebody else says, "Well, I want you to talk to my cat." And I thought, well, look, I don't know what I'm doing. We don't care. We don't care. Just give it a shot. So, I never knew their pets. I just tuned into their pets and I tuned into them through their humans. And so just started talking, I talked to the first one and she, yes, that's just exactly like him. Yes, that's how he acts. And so then I tried another one and I was right on the money. And I tried another one, I was right on the money. And so it was just word of mouth, word of mouth. And so then I was an animal communicator.
You are amazing. Oh, this is okay. So I'm loving all these stories, but I promised that this would only take maybe an hour and we're coming up close to time. So I want to ask you about your books.
Okay. I belong to a writers group. I've belonged to a writers group for 11 years. And so last fall, we went to the mountains for a writers retreat with us. And we had taken prompts, and it just seemed like we all kept writing about miracles. I mean, it just kept happening. And so one of us said, we should write a book about miracles. That'd be a good idea. Yeah, that'd be a real good idea. And so we all had stories, that we could share. So when we went home, we started working on our book, of miracles, and ended up naming it "Miracles Among Us: Words of Wonder and Wisdom," and we are the mystic voices. So I co-authored, in that, and now we're working, and that you can get that on Amazon.
Okay.
And I got published. Well, we all had more miracle stories in us. So we're working on our second miracle book. There's a follow-up to the first one.
Awesome. So
Uh,
I will link in the show notes to your
thank you.
website and your book.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes,
very much. I
that's
appreciate
awesome.
that. We thank you very much.
That's the least I could do. You're giving me an hour of your time and letting me
Oh,
ask you all these questions.
oh, cool. I'm glad to do it. I'm delighted to do it.
Yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about tonight?
No, I think that about does it. I think I got all the other things that I do tucked in there in
Yeah.
the conversation. So anyway, I really appreciate you letting me come and share my stories.
I really appreciate you coming because this has
Oh,
just been delightful and I don't use
good.
that word very often. So it really has.
I had fun. I really, really had fun.
Thanks again to Charlene for sharing her experiences, and thanks to you for listening. Remember, if you want to share your own personal paranormal experiences of any type, use the contact form at peeppodcast.com to get in touch. You can be as anonymous as you like, or you can let your paranormal freak flag fly and share your name. Either way, I'm happy to hear from you. Sharing our stories helps people realize that the paranormal is much more normal than they think. That's PEEP podcast.com. Remember, that stands for People Experiencing Everyday Paranormal. While you're there, subscribe to my newsletter to keep up with the podcast, all my creative and energetic endeavors. I usually only email it once a month, unless I have a special event that you should know about. You'll receive briefs on recent episodes, information on any upcoming appearances, and some occasional fun extras. If you enjoy the podcast, please give it some rating love on your favorite podcast app. Share it with friends and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Ratings, reviews, and shares help platforms like Apple Podcast and Spotify know it's worthy of surfacing to new listeners. And as we build our audience, we have more chances to hear their paranormal stories. A huge thank you to everyone who has given the show some love. You are helping it grow. No matter how you support the show, listening, telling others about it, or any other way, I absolutely appreciate your being here. Thanks again for listening. Stay safe and be well.